In a house in Melbourne in 2024, Corey Lewis waited for his nephew and neighbor, Abdul El Sayed. When he didn't arrive, Lewis thought the 17-year-old had overslept. But as the hours passed, worry turned to alarm. Lewis went to the house and knocked. When no one answered, he climbed the fence and looked through a window. Abdul was on the floor, unmoving, against the wall. Lewis smashed his way inside. Abdul and 3 others were dead. Detectives later found they had bought what they believed was cocaine, but the powder contained a lethal amount of protonitazine, a synthetic opioid, part of a group of drugs named Nitazines. Some are hundreds of times stronger than morphine. Once Abdul and his friends had taken the drug, they were likely dead within minutes. Nitazines are a family of highly potent synthetic opioids. Their story is one of failure. Failed drug research in the 1950s, a failed war in Afghanistan, and the broader failure of drug policy around the world. First synthesized in the 1950s by researchers at the Swiss pharmaceutical company now part of Novartis, they were intended to be powerful painkillers that were safer than morphine. Instead, they proved too dangerous. The gap between pain relief and death was far too narrow. They were never approved for human or veterinary use and remained buried in the scientific literature for decades until they were used to fill supply gaps in the brutal modern drug trade. They are an international drug trafficker's dream and a community's nightmare. Afghanistan had long been central to the global opiate trade. Opium was tied to survival, labor, debt, and rural livelihoods. It was also a major source of income for both farmers and the Taliban during the war against the United States and its allies. At its peak, it accounted for roughly a third of the value of Afghanistan's agricultural sector. The United States spent about $8.6 billion on counter-narcotics efforts in Afghanistan. It achieved nothing lasting. Poppy cultivation continued. Opium production endured. The trade adapted, survived, and outlived the occupation. After returning to power in 2022, the Taliban banned poppy cultivation and enforced it brutally. The impact was swift. In 2022, Afghan farmers cultivated about 233,000 hectares of poppy. By 2023, that had collapsed to around 10,800. Farmers already trapped by debt were hammered. But the global heroin market did not vanish. It adapted. It persisted. When prohibition disrupts supply without addressing demand, poverty, or the realities of the drug market, the market does not disappear. It mutates. It rewards substances that are smaller, stronger, and easier to traffic. To replace opium grown across vast landscapes, you either need another vast landscape or a lab. That is the logic that helped create the conditions for nitazines to spread. Nitazines are a trafficker's dream. Extraordinarily potent, easy to smuggle in tiny amounts, and hard to detect before they start killing people. They are turning up in cocaine, MDMA, fake pills, and even counterfeit vape juice. This means that occasional drug users, those that use at weekends, parties, or special events, may take them without knowing. Their potency is dangerous, but so is their invisibility. Routine opioid screens can miss them. Services may not identify them in time. Deaths can be misread, misclassified, or recognized too late. Limited testing likely means the true number of nitazene deaths is higher than reported. Nitazines can move through the drug market like ghosts, unseen in the drugs people buy, missed by routine tests, and absent from the record unless specialized analysis is ordered. Australia is already in it. In March 2025, researchers at the University of Queensland detected nitazines in Australian wastewater for the first time, confirming that this is not some distant overseas crisis, but part of the drug supply here. Also in 2025, Australian Border Force officers intercepted a consignment from the United Kingdom containing 3 grams of nitazines. A tiny amount, but enough for thousands of doses. They have been linked to hospital presentations, coronial deaths, border seizures, and counterfeit pharmaceutical products. What nitazines reveal is not just the arrival of another dangerous drug, but the direction of the market itself. More potent, more unpredictable, more contaminated. They are a sign of how quickly risk can move ahead of detection, ahead of warnings, and ahead of the systems meant to protect people. For frontline workers, that changes the landscape. For people who use drugs, it raises the stakes. And for governments and health systems, it poses a simple question. How many warnings does it take before the response catches up? Because substances like these do not appear in a vacuum. They emerge in markets shaped by prohibition, concealment, supply disruption, and a constant search for smaller, stronger, easier to move drugs. Nitazines may be the latest warning, but they will not be the last. This is not the end of the story. It is a signal of what may come next.